Hi, fifth graders. This is Mrs. Lamorne again, and today we're going to be doing Unit 7, Lesson 4, Sort Quadrilaterals. All right, so our purpose today is to sort quadrilaterals. All right, let's get right to the warm-up. What do you know about quadrilaterals? Well, I know that quadrilaterals are shapes with four sides because that word quad means four, doesn't it? Like quarter. Four. So four sides. My pen. There we go. Four sides. Sided shapes. So all quadrilaterals have four-sided shapes. And then I probably could name some, right? I could name some. I know that a square is a quadrilateral. I know that a rectangle is a quadrilateral. What else do I know about quadrilaterals? They can have opposite sides that are equal. So this is equal to this one. That would be a rectangle, right? And if it had four right angles, I would know that it's a rectangle. A square has all equal sides and equal angles, and those angles are called right angles, right? I know that any four-sided shape, so something like this, is a quadrilateral, even though it doesn't have equal sides or equal shapes, angles, I should say. I know that this is also a quadrilateral, right? Anything that has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides is a quadrilateral. Let's see what else it asks us today. Draw some examples. Well, I just did, right? Rectangles, squares. This is going to be called something called a trapezoid. So we could write that there. If you don't know what that is, that's okay. We're going to talk about that in this lesson, trapezoid. And this is called a rhombus. Super hard for me to draw straight lines with this program, but we'll try. What is this shape called? So the shape that I'm going to show you is what is this shape called? And we know it's called a rectangle. How else can we draw a rectangle? I can draw it this way. I can draw a little one. I could draw it this way. What makes a rectangle? Well, I have opposite sides are parallel, and opposite sides have the same length. And then I have four right angles. That's what makes a rectangle. Whoops. All right, here we have a game that we're going to play with your friend in class. If you're at home, you can play with a parent or a caregiver. Play a round of guess which one. Partner A is going to select one of the quadrilaterals. Don't reveal your choice to your partner. Partner B is going to ask yes or no questions to figure out what shape your partner picked. After each question, we're going to cross out or remove quadrilaterals based on your partner's answer. So let's say I ask a question like, let's see, what could I ask? Does your shape have a right angle? If it has a right angle, then I know that I could cross out all of the shapes that don't have right angles. So if my partner said yes, I would cross out this one. There are no right angles in that one. And this one. This one has a right angle there. This one does not. This one does not. This one does not. This one does not. And this one does not. And this one does not. And this one does not. This one has a right angle here. These, of course, are rectangles, so these have four right angles. Same thing on this one. This one has one. This one has four, 1, and 4. All right, so the next question that I could ask is your shape a parallelogram? So a parallelogram is going to have opposite sides or parallel. So I'm only going to look at the ones that I didn't cross out. Let's look here. So I'm going to demonstrate on this one. This is a parallel line that is opposite side has a parallel line. It goes in the same direction. This is a parallel line to this one. So if my partner says, no, it's not a parallelogram, then I know it's not this one because this has two sides that are parallel. I could cross off this one, This one only has one side, so it isn't a parallelogram, but it has parallel lines. This one does not have parallel lines. This one is a parallelogram. I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to, let's erase this one. I think that might, okay. So my question was, is it a parallelogram? So and then the answer was no, so I'm gonna mark off all the ones that are parallelograms. So then I could ask a question, does it have one set of opposite parallel lines? So this one has an opposite side. This one does as well. I can see this and this. This one does not. So if the answer was yes, I would mark off this one. And so now I have two shapes that it could be. So then I would have to ask a question, right? Is the longest line at the top? I could say that, right? Because that has the longest line at the top. This one has the longest line on this side. Is the longest side at the top of the figure. And depending on whether my partner said yes or no, it would be one of these two. So that's how you play the game. And you would record your questions for the round, and you would mark on your paper. In my class, I give my students a copy of this sheet inside of a sheet protector, and we use dry erase markers. That way they can play round after round. So Han and Mai were playing this game, and these are the last two shapes. What question could Mai ask to determine which shape is the one that Han picked? Well, I could ask, so the difference to me between these two quadrilaterals, they have parallels, they're parallelograms, is that this one is a square because it has a right angle, and this one is not. So this is what we call a rhombus, and this is a square. Now, a square can be a rhombus, right? This is also a rhombus, but this is a square because it has 4 right angles and 4 equal sides. So I would ask the question, is it a square with 4 equal sides and 4 right angles? And the answer to that would either be yes or no. So if you have time, you can switch roles and partner A and B and play the game again. Are there any words or phrases that are important to include on our display? Well, some words that I used today were square, rhombus, trapezoid. What else did I use? Rectangle. I also said things like 90-degree angle or right angle. I said parallelogram. So these are words that I would add to a word wall in my classroom so we could continue to use these when we reference things. I could say opposite sides. That was something we said. And you need to keep this running list in your classroom, and even you could add things to my word wall in my class. What are some names we could use to describe this shape? Well, we already talked about that, right? We could certainly call it a quadrilateral because how many sides does it have? So a quadrilateral, if I can spell today, we can call it a rhombus. What is a rhombus? Do you know? A rhombus is a shape that has 4 sides, right? It has 4 sides, but let's see. Well, I have to remind myself what a rhombus is. Shape that has 4 sides. They are not, they have no 90-degree angles. I know that. No, it does. It could have 90-degree angles. Let's think about what a rhombus is. So it's a quadrilateral that has 4 sides that are the same length. 4 sides that are the same length. So I could measure those out, 4 sides that are same length, and make sure that they were all the same. Just like a square has 4 sides of the same length. So a square can be a rhombus, but this rhombus is not a square. So what else could we say about this? I bet you could pick a lot of different names for this shape. Okay, let's move on. Let's see what else it has for us to do today. All right, our next activity, your teacher's going to give you a set of shapes. You're going to sort all of the quadrilateral cards in a way that makes sense to you, and you're going to name the categories in your sort. So you're going to write that in your notebook, workbook. Then you're going to sort the cards in a different way and name each of the categories in your new sort. So I'm going to get out of this. See if I can do that. There we go. And here are the cards that your teacher should give you. It's a little crooked there. So I've got a bunch of different, I think I have 16 different cards here. So as I go through the cards, I can think about what way would I want to sort these cards. So they all have 4 sides, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. They all have 4 sides. So I can't use that as one of my categories, but I could use right angles as one of my categories. So I noticed that this card is a square, right? And it's going to have right angles. Well, how do I know that without one of these little 90-degree little symbols there? Well, I can take the edge of my card and go here and notice that it is a 90-degree angle. This angle is not a 90-degree angle. If I line it up here, it doesn't line up there. If I line it up here, this line does not make it. So this right here on my card is a 90-degree angle. So I can use that to help me understand what a 90-degree angle is. So these 2 cards have 90-degree angles. Let's test this one. So I'm going to take this card and put the corner here. That is not a 90-degree angle, is it? So this card is going to go in this stack. Okay. This one, look at that. It does have a 90-degree angle up here in the corner. So I'm going to put that in this stack. This does not, right? None of those are 90-degree angles. So we can test them. We can test each one. So here, that line does not go up here. So it's not a 90-degree angle. And this isn't either. So I'm going to put it in that corner. This one says it has a 90-degree angle, even though it is shaped like a diamond. I can move it so that this is the bottom. I could also test it with the side of my card, couldn't I? I could test it with any index card, or I could use these cards to help me test. So that, even though it was labeled, I tested it is a 90-degree angle. This one I can look at and see it does not. That looks like a kite to me, and that does not have a 90-degree angle or a right angle. Wow, look, that looks like a check mark, huh? No 90, no 90. This one has 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. No 90. No right angles in this one. This one, again, even though it is catawampus, right? If I lined it up like this and used a card to help me figure it out, it does have 90-degree angles. And this one does not. So now I need to label it. So those are quadrilaterals. I'm going to just abbreviate with 90-degree or right angle. At least one, right? No 90-degree or right angles. Okay, so that's my first category. Now I'm going to sort the cards again. So what do you think? What should we do? We could do shapes that have obtuse or right angles. We did right angles already, so we can't do that. We could do shapes with parallel lines. So remember, parallel lines are going to be lines running in the same direction. They don't have to be the same length. Sorry about that. They don't have to be the same length. They don't have to be, but they have to be in the same direction, right? So this is the line with this one. This might be parallel with that, right? So parallel lines, they have opposite parallel lines. So let's do that. So I can already see that these are in the same direction and these are in the same direction. So that's parallel, parallel, parallel. This one has opposite sides, but not all of them, right? So these are going to be parallelograms because they have 1, 2 opposite sides. These, 1 opposite side, 2 opposite sides. So they are going to be parallelograms. This is just going to be a figure with a parallel side. So I'm going to go ahead and sort that here. I might get 3 here. This has no parallel sides, and this has 2. No parallel sides, none. What is that? That has both sides that are opposite that are parallel. So this one's a little bit hard to see too, but I can see it parallel lines, parallel lines. I can move it on its side like that and look at it that way if I wanted to. So that's going to have both sides opposite. This is going to have one opposite side that are parallel, same direction. These are not the same direction. This has none. This has none, right? None of these are parallel. This is not the same line as that one. This has one. So if I put it on its side like this, I have one side that is parallel. So I'm going to put that here. Again, this has one side, set of parallel lines. This one has none. And this one's hard to see. I don't know. Could be. I don't think these are parallel at all. So I'm going to put that here. It's hard to see on that one, isn't it? So my second, I should say this is one. So my second way that I'm going to categorize these are parallelogram, one set, opposite, parallel lines, and then no parallel lines. So I have three categories in that one, absolutely, actually. So this would be no. This would be a parallelogram. Yeah, right? Those are all parallelograms. And then this last set would be one set of opposite parallel lines. All right. Let's move on to the next activity. So we sorted all that. We have two different ways and we named the categories of our new sort. Now we're going to work with a partner to sort your cards using parallel lines. Well, we just did that, didn't we? So I took out all the ones that are not parallel and I have two different sets, one with one parallel line, one set of parallel lines, and one with two sets of parallel lines. Now let's share some ways we sorted the cards using those parallel lines, and you can do that in your class. What attributes do all of the shapes have in common? So they all had four sides, right? They were all quadrilaterals. They all had one set of parallel lines, lines that went in the same direction. How did you use the parallel lines to sort the quadrilaterals? Some of the quadrilaterals didn't have any parallel lines, some had one pair, and some had two pairs. Today we sorted quadrilaterals based on their attributes. What are some of the categories of shapes that are quadrilaterals? We talked about it: rhombuses, squares, rectangles, trapezoids, and parallelograms. Pick two of the different shapes and share a way they are the same. You can do that in your classroom. All right. Squares and rectangles have 90-degree angles. Rhombuses and squares have four sides that are the same length. Pick two of the different shapes and share a way they are different. A trapezoid can have any angles and any size, while a square has 90-degree angles. A trapezoid can have all different side lengths, while a rhombus has four sides that are the same. So let's go ahead and write some of those definitions down. I'm going to put those on my anchor chart in class. So a trapezoid. So what do we know about a trapezoid? A trapezoid can have angles any size. Any size, whoops. Angles. And a trapezoid can have all different side lengths. So this might be something you would write in your lesson synthesis, right? So a trapezoid could be like this, right? That's a trapezoid. It has any angle sides and all different side lengths. All right, so a trapezoid could also look like this. Oops, I lost my pen. Right? So all different side lengths, all angles are different sizes. All right, so let's talk about a rhombus. The only thing that a rhombus has to have are all equal sides. So a square can be a rhombus, but also a diamond can be a rhombus, as long as the side lengths are equal. Okay, there we are. So now we know the difference between a trapezoid and a rhombus. Okay, we're going to use that and we will need that. So we're going to put that on our anchor chart in future lessons. So we need to memorize those things, just like we memorize what a square or a triangle or a rectangle is. We need to memorize what a rhombus is and a trapezoid. All right, hopefully you wrote that down, and we're going to move on. So now we have our cool down. We're going to choose two of the quadrilaterals and name what they're called. So they're already called quadrilaterals, so I can't use that name, can I? So I'm going to start with classifying A and B. So for A, I can say that this has one side that's parallel, but this has one side that's parallel, right? And all different side lengths. So I can call these two trapezoids. They're both trapezoids, because the definition of a trapezoid is that they have all different side lengths, right? We can call this one a rectangle. Rectangle. We could also call it a parallelogram. Can we call these two a parallelogram? Well, not really, because they only have one pair of opposite sides that are parallel. These two have opposite sides that are parallel and at least one set of 90-degree angles, right? So there we are. We could go on and on about different things. It depends on which two shapes that you chose. So we're putting an attribute that two quadrilaterals share. Well, A and B are both trapezoids. One way they're different is only B has right angles. So if I chose A and B for this project or this answer, that would be my answer. If I chose A and C, both are quadrilaterals that have at least one pair of opposite sides that are parallel. C has two pairs of opposite sides, and C has all four angles that are 90 degrees, whereas A has four angles that are all different measures. But maybe I chose B and C. Both are quadrilaterals that have at least one pair of opposite sides that are parallel and at least one angle that is 90 degrees. However, they're different because C has all angles that are 90 degrees and C has two pairs of opposite sides that have equal measure. So it just depends on what you decided to choose. All right, that's it for today, boys and girls. I hope you enjoyed lesson 4 of Unit 7. I hope you will join me for lesson 5 and like and subscribe so that I can continue to make these videos for you guys.